Alright, watch me casually destroy 2 4x4s at In-N-Out. I was sitting at a very busy In-N-Out by myself at this table, crushing a 4x4 right in front of the very busy drive-thru line, just giving everybody a show.
Show us what you got.
Anyways, I know a lot of you are very concerned about my vegetable intake, so for my next 4x4, I decided to get it wrapped in lettuce. And after this 4x4, I think I'm pretty good on vegetables for a solid year now, so. Here's me looking around because I'm like, I'm so shy, I can't eat in front of anyone. And then I go on to connect my 2 4x4s and eat like a freaking animal. Look at me, I just can't stop looking around. I still get nervous this day, I swear. And then I ran out of napkins, and I did what any classy lady would do, and I started wiping my face with my fries. Honestly, adds a lot of flavors. 10 out of 10, you should try it. Alright, you know when the fries are coming out on the burger, gals getting comfortable, the beast is being unleashed, no longer care who's watching, who's seeing, who's saying what.
I don't care!
You know, just a gal enjoying her burger, and if you don't like that, I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, ice for balance, bye!
That is quite a lot of food, and yes, she ate all of that food. But that is not the point. In the comment section, I saw people arguing about how she was able to eat all of that food and not gain weight. For example, one user said, I think she has fast metabolism, y'all, coming from a person who also has fast metabolism. And you can see that that response got 45 replies, and in there, people were still arguing about metabolism. And the thing is that beyond genes, sometimes people think that lean women just happen to have fast metabolisms. In the back of their minds, they assume that these women can eat all kinds of ultra-processed foods, lie in bed all day, and wake up having burned all of those calories from doing nothing. I often see these arguments online, especially on TikTok, where people will see a lean woman doing a mukbang, which is an eating challenge, without gaining weight, just like the creator just showed you. And their comments are often centered on how lucky these women are to have such fast metabolism, unlike their followers, who believe that they will gain weight by eating just half of what these creators post. So are their metabolisms just higher than those of the average person? Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Daisy aka D, and I make weekly videos talking about weight loss beliefs that often complicate weight loss for women and make it harder for them to achieve the results that they want. If that sounds like something that you will be interested in, I would love for you to join this community. Since we're talking about fast metabolisms or lack thereof, I will keep things moving. So let's get into this week's topic. Do lean women just have faster metabolisms? I do not watch mukbangs, eating challenges, because I don't like watching people eat or hearing the noises that most of them make when they're eating this food. But for the purpose of this video, I think that these creators are the best people to use as our case studies. Take this video for example.
What I eat at all-you-can-eat sushi. Steak fried noodles. Honey salad. Miso soup. Here we go again. White dragon roll 1 to 8. Samurai roll 9 to 16. Spicy tuna hand roll. Rainbow roll 17 to 24. Pork dumplings 8, also all 9. Onion rings 4. Shrimp tempura 2. Chicken nugs 4. Avocado salad. Water to be healthy. Dessert. Green tea ice cream. Red bean ice cream. Cheesecake. Watching Game of Thrones on HBO.
Baby Dumpling is a popular mukbang creator whose story I will get into later. But as you can see, her videos often attract comments relating to her metabolism. Examples include people saying things such as, I envy people who eat a lot but never gain weight. Like, what did they do in their past life? And someone else says, girl, how are you still skinny? Please teach me, because I be gaining just from drinking water. The confusion is evident, as is the envy that some people have about how much she can put down without gaining weight and remain lean. We're talking about so much food. I stopped counting when she got to the sushi and she was talking about 17 to 24. Then she had different ice creams, she had cheesecake, she had so much food in this video. Let me see. White dragon rolls, samurai rolls, spicy tuna hand rolls, she has rainbow rolls, pork dumplings, 8 pork dumplings, she has onion rings, shrimp tempura, avocado salad, water to be healthy, dessert, she has green tea ice cream, red bean ice cream, cheesecake, and yeah, the list just goes on and on and on. I can understand the envy. Now, the thinking that some people can just burn through calories comes from diet culture. For decades, we have been told that metabolism is the only determinant of how much we weigh. So if someone is lean, that means that they have a fast metabolism. And if they are overweight or obese, their metabolism must be slowing down. This thinking is further cemented by our own experiences. The more we see lean people like this eating freely without gaining weight, and without even thinking of gaining weight, the more that this metabolism angle starts making sense. After all, if they're starting their days with bagels, punctuating it with fried chicken and fries, and ending it with bowls of lasagna, how could it not be true that they just happen to have faster metabolism? People often think of metabolism as this fixed factor when it comes to weight loss, which means that some people are genetically predisposed to being leaner than others. But here's the fun fact. First off, like I talked about in myth number 30, which I will link in the description below, our metabolism is not all that different from one person to the other. And like I also shared in myth number 36, which I will also include in the link below, when researchers control for factors such as age, height, and weight, variations in metabolism range from 5% to 8% for the most part. And that means that if the average person has a BMR of around 2,000 calories a day, then a person with fast metabolism will average around 2,150 calories a day, and the person with slow metabolism will average around 1,850 calories a day. Again, this is when researchers control for factors such as age, height, and weight. But with that out of the way, let's talk about the resting metabolic rate, which is known as the RMR. And this is what people often compare when they're talking about metabolisms. Our resting metabolic rate comes down to two key things. These are how big we are and how much muscle mass we have. As such, while society loves positioning lean people as having higher metabolisms, the reality is that overweight and obese people actually have higher resting metabolic rates. And that is because bigger bodies need more energy to maintain basic functions, such as breathing and walking. So if you were to take two people and one has 100 kilograms, which is about 220 pounds, and the other person is at 150 kilograms, which is about 330 pounds, the heavy individual at 150 kilograms or 330 pounds will burn more calories at rest, just because their body will have more tissue to support. However, we also have to consider the nuance of relative metabolism. Since leaner women tend to have higher lean muscle mass percentages, and muscle is more metabolically active than fat, you find that they tend to have high metabolism rates compared to the average person who doesn't have as much lean muscle mass. Again, this is different from person to person, so you'll mostly find this in people who strength train. Now, just how much does muscle burn? According to research, 1 pound of muscle burns around 6 to 10 calories per day, and when you compare this to fat will burn around 2 to 3 calories per day. So the more muscle mass you have, then the more calories that you burn at rest. Therefore, people with higher lean muscle mass often have a higher metabolic advantage. Even so, when we consider size, this metabolic advantage will usually not make their metabolism faster or higher compared to that of bigger individuals in terms of size. We're talking about obese people and overweight people. Heavier people will always have higher energy needs. So why are lean people able to stay lean despite heavier people having higher resting metabolic rates? Well, that answer lies in the difference in 3 key things. These are activity levels, food choices, and lifestyle habits. And of course, at the end of the day, there is always calorie balance. Let's talk about this some more. Just like in the previous video, it's still very hot. We are at 36 degrees right now. It's summer and I can't turn on the AC until I'm done filming, so it's a sauna right now. Now, that aside, I'm just saying that in case you see that I am looking a bit sweaty. Now, remember baby dumpling? Well, like I said, hers is quite an interesting story. For a long time, people would be in her comment sections questioning whether she ate all of that food. And she kept assuring people that she did, despite all the cuts that would be in her videos, despite all the comments that were there. But in 2025, when the US was facing a TikTok ban, she made this video.
Since we're all gonna die, there's one more secret I feel I have to share with you. I did not care for The Godfather.
What?
Did not care for The Godfather.
So the text on the screen says, since TikTok is getting banned, there is one more secret I have to share with you. There was this trend going on back then where influencers who thought that the app was going to be banned were now sharing their secrets with people. For example, people who usually did really heavy makeup, maybe like there was this creator who used to use a whole, I don't know what you call it, the whole bottle of foundation, let's call it that. She will use so much foundation and then she will transform her makeup and she will look really nice, and people were like, do you usually actually use all of that foundation? And when the app was about to be banned, she came out and said, I actually don't use all of the foundation. Or people who were lying about the size of their glutes and they were saying that they got that from working out, they came out and said, I actually got a BBL. So there was this trend going on where people were just being honest about what they have been lying to their followers about. So Baby Dumpling followed the same trend and she said, since TikTok is getting banned, there's one more secret I have to share with you. And the secret was, I don't eat all of the food. The comment section was split. There were people feeling that like they had been strung along and they had questions about it. We had, so how did you do the time-lapse videos? And then there was explain yourself now. And then there were others who said that they knew it all along and they had just been going with it with comments such as, finally I can sleep in peace, and the way I didn't gasp, blink, flinch. I mean, we all knew. People saying the way my jaw did not drop, or girl, we already knew. But no matter where people fell, one thing was clear, and that was that Baby Dumpling did not have an extraordinary metabolism. She had just found ways to make mukbangs without the weight gain. Now, but what of people who actually eat like this and manage to stay lean? Because Baby Dumpling is one of the exceptions. There are people who choose to lie on social media. There are people who are actually honest. Now, for the mukbangers who actually eat like that, you find that they rely on the factors that I talked about earlier. And these are activity levels, food choices, and lifestyle choices. Now, let us start with activity levels.
I eat triple dippers and 20-pound burritos for a living, so let's go work out.
This creator often makes mukbang videos like the one I will play on the side, and as you can imagine, her followers are often curious as to how she stays so lean. So when she posted that video about her workouts, people appreciated her honesty, and we had comments such as, literally just watched your Chipotle burrito video. Chipotle. You can tell I'm not from the US. Literally just watched your Chipotle burrito video and I asked myself, how does she maintain such skinniness? And this video popped up. Get it, girl. And it's not just mukbangers who stay active. Most lean women make the habit of moving more, and not just at the gym, but also throughout the day in ways such as walking more or doing chores, because this increases their non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is NEAT, which is NEAT. And this accounts for 20% to 30% of your total daily energy expenditure. And because their energy needs remain high, they are able to eat what other people would consider to be a lot without gaining weight. Secondly, let's talk about food choices. Lean women also go out to eat. Some even go out to eat every day or do mukbangs like those creators, while others choose to do so every once in a while. For example, I barely ever eat out, as I prefer making my own food and I don't trust most restaurant kitchens to be clean. But in either of these cases, whether they're eating out a lot or they're barely eating out, you find that their food choices tend to be strategic. For instance, those who rarely eat out often focus on eating mostly whole foods at home, and when they go out, they feel free to order whatever they want because they know that it can fit into their calorie budgets. Those who often eat out often follow some strategies to ensure that they do not overeat. For example, as much as Liv Schmidt gets a lot of backlash, and I do not really agree with many of her takes, she is honest about how she stays lean when eating out so much. And you find that she eats small portions spread throughout the day. So it is not like she's eating out a lot and not gaining weight. She's just being strategic about her calorie intake. As problematic as people might think it is, she's honest about how she stays that small. Of course, skinny talk has some downsides, and I'm not saying that we should turn to it for advice, but it just goes to show that when we see lean women, it is important to note that their bodies are a result of their habits, and whether that is eating whole foods most of the time or grazing on snacks most of the day, they are making conscious food choices that are enabling them to maintain their weight as it is. Bethany Frankel, who is also considered a skinny legend, also made a video about how she manages to stay so thin. Take a look at it.
How do I stay so thin? So, I pick my spots. If I know I'm going to some crazy donut place or hot dog place, I may not have the meal that comes before that. But I won't not eat at all, otherwise you're going to go there and like overeat on that. But it would be just like a light day. And also I'm not eating all the donuts or all the hot dog or all the pizza. You're really tasting everything, eating nothing, like my book, Naturally Thin. But you want to try a good amount of something to really know how it is. But I also never binge. I never eat to the point where I'm full. Not never, but sometimes I don't like the feeling. I do not like the feeling of being full. It's uncomfortable. So if you never eat until you get full, you'll be fine. I'm also a slow eater and I chew slowly. I chew my food thoroughly.
Okay, yeah, if you don't like watching people eat and talk at the same time, my apologies, but you get the message. Now, the comments on the original post on her page are mixed. I got that from page 6 because Bethany's videos are not downloadable. Now, the comments on the original post on her page are mixed. Some are happy with her honesty, while others think that this is disordered. We have people saying, "You're always so honest. I have become such a fan of you on TikTok. I never watched any of the Real Housewives Bravo stuff. Happy to discover you here." And someone responds to that and says, "Yes, sharing disordered eating and behavior to the masses." I can't say that on YouTube, but you can read it on the screen. If you can't, it's the ED that starts with A and has an N after it, you know, like it's 2 words, A and then N. Okay. Someone else says, "My favorite human on this app." And then we have someone who says, "I agree with you. I always thought it's all genetics and it's not. It's daily habits and what you said." Now, I personally think that eating a light meal before going out is a good idea so that you're not ravenous when you get there. I also like the idea of honoring your fullness cues and not finishing the food on your plate just because it's there. I personally do not mind being full, but I will not eat up to a point where I am uncomfortably full. I am a slow eater and I know that it helps me enjoy the food and it allows me to register that I am full, because if you're eating so fast, sometimes you get full even before your brain has registered that you're full. So generally, I think that her advice is okay. But despite this good advice and the honesty about the behaviors that she adopts when she's eating out, she still gets backlash, which is quite funny if you think about it. Would these people rather that Bethany comes on and says that she has fast metabolism and that's all there is to it? It's funny if you think about it. And finally, we have lifestyle habits. This is where we get into the decision decisions that people make when it comes to aspects such as stress management, getting enough sleep, and other aspects that affect our well-being. Even our relationships with food fall into this category. For example, some people use food as a source of comfort, and so whenever they feel stressed or bored or any other negative emotion, they turn to eating. Such a relationship can make you gain weight, and you might end up thinking that it's because of slow metabolism, because you're not really aware of that relationship that you have with food. You're not really aware of whether you eat because of physical hunger, just hunger, emotional hunger. You're not really aware of that. And some people just eat because the food is there. If there's food they're eating, they don't really think about it. So that's another habit that ties to our lifestyle. All that is to say that there's more to our weight and health than just food, and it is important to build healthy habits all around if we want to enjoy healthy weight management. Lean women do not necessarily have fast metabolisms. Instead, as studies show, the advantages often come down to having higher lean muscle mass, as well as calorie balances that keep them at this size. In fact, it's mostly just about the calorie balances, because when we're talking about lean muscle mass, there's a difference between lean women and women who are considered skinny, because skinny is more of just being small, and then being lean is more of being small, but then you also have a considerable percentage, high percentage of lean muscle mass. And then now when we come to the overweight and obese women, you find that the arguments about low metabolism are not actually true, because they actually burn more calories at rest. But because they eat at or above maintenance, and many of them tend to have lower muscle mass, lower lean muscle mass in general, they tend to remain at their current weight or even gain weight, since their activities do not match the number of calories consumed. So if you wish to have a metabolic advantage, a good place to start is being more active, building muscle. Yes, once again, I get to show off my guns, and eating in a way that supports fat loss. I am curious about your thoughts on the fast metabolism argument and what you think about my take on this. Also, give this video a thumbs up if it helped clear things up for you, and don't forget to hit subscribe so that you don't miss out on next week's myth. I will see you in the next one.